This is the HeadRush Podcast with Paul Frase and Corey Berry.
Welcome to the HeadRush Podcast. I'm Paul Frase, and I played 11 years in the NFL, and our co-host, Corey Berry, rode professional rodeo for 9 years. At the HeadRush Podcast, we talk about everything related to brain trauma and brain health and wellness. We talk about traumatic brain injury, TBI. We talk about chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, traumatic encephalopathy syndrome, TES, and repeated head impacts, as well as repeated blast exposures. We cover how traumatic brain injuries can and will cause mental health issues such as depression, addiction, lack of executive function, memory loss, even suicide ideation, as well as degenerative neurological issues. These symptoms can be found on the Mayo Clinic and Boston University websites under symptoms of CTE. Our mantra is how to cope and find hope. And we focus our energy on finding therapies and sharing hope through education and by raising awareness.
Okay, Paul, so we've been hiding this from you for a while now. We got it all planned out. You don't know who's coming on.
You're going to make me guess.
I'm going to make you guess. Now, he was an elite athlete. 11 years. He was an elite. You were professional 11 years.
Yeah.
He was a teammate of yours for, I'm not going to say because that'd be easy for you. But he's one of the greatest out. Do you know who it is?
I played with a few greats, elites. And I remember Ray Lewis one time, and I remember Brett Favre actually with the Green Bay Packers. Do you see that? That was an old one. That was only my second professional card in my career. It took me 9 years to get my second.
Can you put that back up there? So by doing this, who do you think it might be? Well, not Andrew. Who's on Zoom?
Holy crap, it's Brett Favre.
Brett, is Brett up right now? Andrew?
Yes, sir.
Good. Awesome. Thank you for joining us and welcome.
So, Paul, I don't know if Brett Favre remembers you as a teammate. I mean, you played 12 months out of his 20-year career. And there's offense.
It's not defense. Because of me. I promise you that.
It's offense and there's defense, and I know things don't match. But do you remember the first time you met Brett at Lambeau Field?
Definitely. When I was traded to you guys in '97, just at the last cut, and I was in the locker room when I walked in the locker room. Brett was actually carrying around a box of his books, newly published, newly released, and he was tossing a book to every one of his teammates. And he didn't know me from Adam, and he tossed one to me. And I was up there alone. My family had stayed down in Jacksonville, but I read the book probably within the first week. And there was one story that sticks with me. It was freaking hilarious. Did you really feed Oreos to an alligator, Brett?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah. So me and my older brother, I got an older brother, a younger brother, and a younger sister. We grew up on we call it a bayou, a river, or whatever you want to call it. But we saw gators all the time. And so it was sort of not, don't get me wrong. I never considered them a pet. But it was not uncommon to see gators all the time. So, we thought feeding them Oreos and slices of bread, really anything as long as it wasn't something living, we thought that was pretty cool. So our dad came out and said, "What are you going to do when you come out and you go out in the front yard and there's a gator sitting in the front yard waiting to be fed?" That was probably the last time we fed the gators.
Brett, thanks for coming on the HeadRush Podcast.
Yeah.
You have too many records to mention. I had the pleasure.
Well, they're all gone now, Paul, I think.
I was going to say, how many have you do you still retain?
Honestly, I don't keep up with it. I think the one that will probably last the longest, I think it'll be broken, is the consecutive
I was
starts.
going to say 321, and then 297 of them were regular season, right? And that's still standing. It's got to be.
Yeah, that's still standing. I don't know if too many people want to break that.
Right.
You know, you may say you want to, but now in today's game, in defense of today's players, the rule changes and the addition of another game in the regular season certainly helps if you really are into breaking that record.
Right. You mentioned that, and we kind of relate it to the repeated head impacts. We work with the Mac Parkman Foundation. Bruce Parkman lost his son, Mac Parkman, to suicide. And Mac was a young man in high school, and he actually, they found out later he had white matter brain damage to his white matter. And basically, Bruce was talking about repeated head impacts. And we know, we hear from CLF and Chris Nowinski and Ann McKee, hey, that's what causes problems down the road, right? And Bruce's mantra is, you know what? If we just make sure these kids don't practice banging their heads 5 times a week and we only make them hit once a week, that's 80% reduction in repeated head impacts. And you just said they're already doing. I guess they're already doing that in the NFL. They never let us in practice get near, even sniff the quarterbacks, right?
Yeah. It certainly was a different era, even though it was not that long ago. And this is, I suppose it's, in some respects, it's not funny, but I consider it funny. When I was in Atlanta in '91, I was actually live. Jerry Glanville obviously did not like me very much, but he said, Mississippi's live. So I thought to myself, this is pretty cool, but I was a different breed, I guess. But yeah, that's the only time in my career that I remember the quarterback being live. Now, I wasn't the starter. So, but you're right. You were not allowed to get close to the quarterback. It really, I can't imagine really any generation in practice that you could, but now you can't even get close to him in a game.
Right. Yeah. Well, Corey,
I made fun of it last night talking about it. And I said, did you ever put your hand on Brett in practice? He goes, oh, hell no. He goes, if you so much as even touched his pinky, you were fired the next day.
I've actually seen that defensive lineman, young bucks, running into the quarterback. So they.
Yeah, and it happens. And I almost, throughout my career, I almost felt sort of bad, I guess, because I was, I never really shied away from contact. Practice obviously is different, but when the guy is trying to make the team and busting his ass, rushing the quarterback, and he bumps into the quarterback, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, he didn't do it maliciously, and it happens on occasion. Right.
You did, we know the character of the way you play just by watching you play Tampa and, Warren Sapp hitting you, and you're getting up, wrapping your arms around him and slapping him in the head. That was, I saw that more than once. So, all right, 297 regular season game starts, 3-time NFL most valuable player, offensive player of the year, and we can go on and on and on. We'll just simplify it, and we'll just say that you are a Hall of Famer and probably one of the best that ever played the game.
So, Brett, the reason why I've been talking to Ray Ramon and David Cano of Concuss, the American Dream, and wanting to get you on is because you're such a huge part of that movie and telling about Tyler Sash's story. What made you want to be part of that movie and get involved in this discussion?
Well, before Concussion or Concussed ever materialized, I'm going to say probably 2, maybe 3 years after I retired, I started, trying to, first of all, eliminate tackle football with our youth, 8 to 15 years old. It's sort of like what Paul was saying earlier. You eliminate, the percentages go drastically down if you just make a few rule modifications or laws or whatever you want to call it. For example, Pee Wee football shouldn't tackle. They shouldn't. And so, I started getting passionate about, head trauma, concussions, concuss came quite a bit longer down the road. But it just kind of fell in line with what I was doing. I was trying to raise awareness. I have 3 grandsons. The oldest is just turned 15. The second is soon to be 11, and the third is 8. And I'll be honest with you, they don't play football. 2 of them play soccer. 1 plays baseball and golf. And they have never asked me once, will you help me play football, or will you teach me? Which I certainly would, but I will not encourage them to play football. And that surprises a lot of people. Some people it doesn't. But in saying all this, throughout this whole crusade, if you want to call it that, after I retired, never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be diagnosed with Parkinson's. So that just adds to just fuel to the fire. I've met with 5 different specialists in regards to my Parkinson's. In all 5, I've asked the same question: where do you think I got it? And they said, first and foremost, if there's no history in the family, which there isn't, then we look to 2 things: head trauma or environmental exposure, chemicals, things you eat, cellular waves, the list goes on and on. And that could be, I would say that there's a small percentage that is part of the issue, but the main reason is head trauma. And, playing 20 years of National Football League football, 4 years of college and 2 years in high school, and then elementary, there's no telling how much head trauma I acquired. Because, I had a conversation with a guy, and I'm sure you remember the movie that Will Smith portrayed, Dr. Benjamin Amalu, Concussion. I had a conversation with Dr. Amalu maybe a year after that movie came out. We were doing a big conference call about concussions. And after he asked to talk to me afterwards. And so I stayed on the line, and we were talking about my career and how I got started. And he has no clue. Knows nothing about American football. But he said, Brett, how many concussions would you say you had? And so at the time I thought about it, and I said 3. And he started laughing, not in a sarcastic way. And I said, why are you laughing? And he says, how about 3,000? And I said, no way. And he said, let me ask you this. How many times did you get tackled or hit your head on the turf? You got tripped, you fell, your head banged the backside on the turf, or you got up and your ears were ringing. You were able to call the next play. You were able to function, but you had ringing in the ears, or, fireworks went off. There's various things that could have happened. How many times would you say one of those happened? And I said, pretty much every time I fell or got tackled. And he said, Brett, that is a concussion. Now, that was a huge wake-up call for me, because I thought a concussion was you had to be knocked out for a period of time, blackout, did not remember the last day or play or game. Couldn't remember how you got home. Yeah, I always thought that was the concussion, and it is. But he simplified it as best as possible, and he said, "Think about Muhammad Ali." He said, "We often relate to him, the greatest boxer of all time. How many times can you remember him just getting knocked out cold?" And I said, "Never." And he goes, "Exactly. The jabs the repeated jabs that you're watching the fight and you go, those ain't doing nothing, but they're adding up." And he said, football life is no different. It's the little ones that take the toll because they add up. If you have a bunch of major concussions, you got major problems. You have a lot of minor concussions, the likelihood of something materializing down the road will happen. And I believe 100% that's the case with me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Millennium Health Centers, Dr. Mark Gordon at tbihealthnow.org. He signed on with us. You've seen him in our episode 2 with Dr. Mizell DeMeo and Dr. Gordon.
Dr. Gordon's been featured on a movie, Quiet Explosions, a documentary about TBI. Featured Andrew Marr, a Green Beret blast explosive specialist, and they talk about TBI, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and I've watched that movie about 4 times, and I know Dr. Gordon has also been on Joe Rogan 6 times, so he has something good and powerful to say about TBI, traumatic brain injury. So go to tbihelpnow.org.
Correct.
And make sure you get in touch with their team. Dr. Gordon also works with the military. Do you want to?
Yeah, he works with the United States military. He's done the Pentagon. He's working real close with them. If you're a veteran and you need help, go to tbihelpnow.org. Dr. Mark Gordon quit his private practice just to work with the military.
Work with veterans suffering with PTSD.
Right, PTSD, TBIs, and repeated blast impacts.
Exactly.
And if you are a veteran, there's nothing closer to my heart than the people that serve our country and protect our way of right and our way to be able to do this podcast for you. So go to tbihelpnow.org and get the help you need. Mark Gordon, we work with him on the Brainwell program through Mizell DeMeo. If you go to tbihelpnow.org, there's a list. There may be a provider in your area in Canada. He's all over. So go to tbihelpnow.org and check it out.
When you were just out a couple of years and you started this crusade, maybe personally, and then it grew for you, were you when you're talking to somebody like Amala at a conference, it was Steve Young and some of the other guys that have suffered from concussions in the audience or joining you guys as well? Not
that I'm aware of. And Steve's last play, I believe, was a major concussion, if my memory serves me well. And there's probably a lot of guys that can say the same thing, that they're dealing with mental issues, and you mentioned some of those, suicide being one. Can't make decisions, headaches, dizziness, or neurological diseases, and I can speak volumes on that.
Yeah, and you probably don't know, but I got in a bad wreck in 2022, but I rode professional bareback broncs for 9 years. And
you're just asking for it.
Right. And that's only professionally. I did many, many years before in rodeo. I mean, it's a youth sport all the way up, like football. And I went, and Boston University sent me down here to San Antonio, Texas, at UT Health San Antonio, to the Glenn Briggs Institute for Neurodegenerative Changes in Alzheimer's. And I met Jeremy Tanner, Dr. Jeremy Tanner, who wants to come on the podcast. And he did the clinical diagnosis of TES, probable CTE, with me. And I've estimated I probably had 15 good concussions and repeated head hits. I don't know how many, but you did that. You repeated a study about how many.
I was up in Boston University about 10 years ago for the first clinical trial for CTE biomarkers. They were trying to find biomarkers. And one of the questions was very similar to Amalo's, to you, how many concussions you had. And I said, I don't know, probably I've been knocked out 3 or 4 times. And then they said, how many times have you seen the color purple, seen stars, have a split second of dizziness, on and on and on, like 15 things. And I said, I don't know, thousands.
Yeah.
And interestingly, when they put the sensors on the helmet, you're talking 35, 40, 49 G forces, and you're getting 1,000 to 1,500 hits a year playing football. Not just in the NFL, college, and so on and so forth. So you played 20 years in the NFL. And did you start? Were you one of those kids that started at 7 years old as well, or did you?
Yeah, and I played tackle football in the 5th grade.
Right, and
so no telling.
No telling.
It's impossible to put a number out there, but it's a high number.
It's a high number. I mean, it's 10,000 plus. So, and I think when I started saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, people are going to think I'm freaking out of my mind saying that.
Correct.
But so I don't really say that, but and we know one of the Pittsburgh Steelers neurologist, Dr. Maroon. Thank you.
Not moron.
No. Maroon. He said he was talking to Bruce Parkman of the Mac Parkman Foundation, and Bruce has been on a championing not banging your head in no concussive sports for kids until they're 17 or 18. But Moran said, oh, well, there's a company that has the mouthpiece, and the sensors on the mouthpiece were way under the 1,000. And I'm like, okay, you just proved that repeated head impacts are okay. They're less than 1,000, but they obviously take less to get the results of a CTE or a TBI or a white matter damage. And I was like, you're kind of making the case for us. It's not good to hit your head all over and over and over.
Correct. Bad things will happen. Not a guarantee.
No.
But the percentages go up greatly.
Exactly. Yeah, and CLF has they're starting to get good data saying that every year you play, every year you add on to your career playing, it's like 2.6 times more likely to, acquire CTE down the road. Yeah. So but
you both of you, if you haven't heard this, I think will find very interesting and a very easy to
share,
understand perspective. But Dr. Amalu said, Brett, I want you to think about something. And I started laughing when he brought it up. But he said, the human head is not designed to play football. And what brought that up was, I said, Dr. Amalu, when is a good time to play tackle football? What age? And he said, never. He said, yeah, a 25-year-old's head is probably fully developed when a 8-year-old's is certainly not. So, to answer your question, Brett, older is better. when the head is developed. He said, but the human head is not designed to play football. And he said, but I'm going to give you some examples of heads that are designed for head impact. And he said, I want you to think about a woodpecker. And I thought, a woodpecker. And then I got to thinking about it. It sits there all day and bangs on a tree or a light pole never gets a concussion. But he said, I'll give you another example. A ram. How many times have you seen them butt heads? He said, a muskox. And I got to thinking about it. And he said, the brain is encased like in these animals. Almost think of it like a styrofoam padding. So he said, my point is when the head, in a woodpecker's case, hits the tree or a light pole, the head stops and the brain stops at the same time. So the human head, on the other hand, when the head stops, the brain keeps going. And that's where the impact, where you get inflammation or a concussion, whatever you want to call it, is when that head stops and the brain continues to move. He used the word sloshing around. And he said, so the human brain is not built to have that much impact. And that there's where the problem lies. And he said, and I bring this up, Brett, because helmets don't stop that. Helmets, they protect a certain degree of the head. But when you, for example, you fall on the turf, your head hits the turf, the head stops immediately. The brain slams into the side of the head. And there's where your impact and problem lies. And when he explained it that way, it made perfect sense to me.
You're talking about the sloshing. I was talking to Corey probably about a week after I met him, probably 6-8 months ago. And I'd never thought of rodeo, as head trauma. But when I started talking to him, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. How many times does the bronc buck in one ride?
12, average 12 times in 8 seconds.
So 1, 2, so you've got 24 that you were calling them swishing, right?
Right. My neurologist calls them swishing, where the brain is swishing.
And it's in the front of the skull, which is bony and jagged, and it's in the back of the skull. I don't know about that. Is smooth, but anyway, yeah. So that's where the damage comes in.
And I got atrophy of the brain already. That's proven in years and years of MRIs. I got atrophy in the frontal lobe cortexes. I got gray spots on the white matter of my brain that are getting bigger and bigger every year. And I got separation. And so they're like, yeah.
The TES, are you familiar with the TES, traumatic encephalopathy syndrome? That
I don't know.
It's basically the closest. We know CTE cannot be diagnosed unless Ann McKee is holding our brain in her hands, right?
Right.
And or O'Malo, or is he still at Pittsburgh or in the Pittsburgh area?
I'm not sure. He was I think he basically, when he was discovered CTE, he was doing autopsies. He was a coroner, I believe, in Pittsburgh, and did several Steeler, like Mike Webster,
right.
Some guys that he had never heard of, but they all had the same.
Justin or Jason Stralzik.
Yeah,
he was one of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I played against Justin. He came from University of Maine. He was a bear, Maine Orono bear, but he committed suicide, and they found CTE. But that was
he was wife. I got dogged diagnosed in 1999 with cognitive nerve damage. Me and Corey Navarre were the first two rodeo cowboys that Tandy Freeman, I got sent to UCSF, and they said, you got cognitive nerve damage from too many concussions. And me and Corey Navarre, Tandy told me, we're the first two. But the new TES, there's a whole slide on it. And if you watch our podcast, the one that's dropping Monday with my local neurologist, Dr. Victor Katester, he talks about it in length, and it's only a clinical diagnosis at this point. It's not medical. And it's actually pretty much saying that there's 4 steps. You got suspected CTE, possible CTE, probable CTE, and then CTE, which can only be diagnosed once you're dead. And Ann McKee got my brain in her hands. I am TES, Traumatic Encephalopathy Syndrome, probable CTE. But it took years of validation because, one, the difference between football and rodeo, and you know this being a Southern boy and been around it your whole life, I'm sure, is we get our bell rung. There ain't no doctor there. There ain't nothing. We go back. We hang out with the Cowboys. We go down the road. We do whatever. You know, we don't have a team doctor there to watch over us and say, well, you might here, watch my finger, lift your left leg. So we just absorbed it and went on. And they did a study in San Antonio.
For the rodeo, right?
At the rodeo, at Houston Rodeo, and they put earpieces in, and they did it on a bull rider and a bareback rider, and we ended up talking to the bareback rider, Ryan Gray, that was actually part of the study, and I didn't know it when I read the study, but 8 seconds on an average was hitting 46, and at one time hit 48 G's for 12 times, and that's $12 at 48 G's every time. And then here I am. I was part of the mini barebacks putting kids on mini bucking horses from 6 to 17 years old on just little Shetlands and stuff. Once I found out what's really going on and what caused it, you know how much guilt I have now? Because here I was teaching these kids at 6 years old, and actually one of them's top 16 in the world right now, Mason Stuhler. But it's just, that just rattles my brain that I was that stupid and I didn't know, and that I was causing damage like this.
This episode of the HeadRush Podcast is brought to you by our personal doctor and team of doctors, Dr. Mizelle DeMayo, and she's with the Paradise Behavioral Health, and we are in the
Brainwell program, which is also part of the Millennium Health Center. Dr. Mark Gordon, you've seen him on Joe Rogan and even on our show, the HeadRush Podcast, and hormones. And Mizelle is awesome. We love her.
She's our doctor of psychiatry. She works the Mark Gordon program with the hormones, and she adds her twist of genetics, and it basically is melding two wonderful mediums together, and we're getting great help from Dr. Mizelle DeMayo.
So please check out her website at paradisebehavioral.com. Look up the Brainwell program. Get involved.
She's sponsoring us. They're sponsoring us for the next year, so we are excited to have them on board and shout the good news to everybody that is watching these broadcasts. So,
is she helping you, Paul?
Absolutely.
She's helping me. So go check her out. ParadiseBehavioralHealth.com.
Our generation of football again is not that long ago. But if I would have came to the sidelines at any point, my first 12 to 15 years. This is before concussion protocol was implemented. Had I gone to the sidelines and said, and Paul probably can attest to this, and I said, coach, whatever coach or trainer or doctor, any one of them, and I said, I got my bell rung. I think I'm going to sit out. They would have put a foot so far up my rear end or berated me from one end of the sideline to the other. It would have been ugly because no one thought of concussions as being, I think people thought of concussions as a short-term issue. You got your bell rung, sit out a series, you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Got your bell rung, sit out a play, go back in.
Absolutely.
But nowadays, that's totally different. Thank God. It doesn't help us much, Paul and I, but much like rodeo for you. You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot more we know about concussions, but I think we're just scraping the surface, which is frightening.
I want to touch on one question that a sponsor of ours has for you, and then I wanted to jump into your diagnosis and the Parkinson's, as you've already mentioned. So we have a dear friend, Karen and Doug Ziegel, and Karen, they lost their son Patrick Risha at 31 years old when he took his own life. And he played at Dartmouth. Yeah, he was I think it was running back at Dartmouth. Never played in the league, and he was found to have stage 2 CTE. And she wanted to ask, and she's been on a crusade. She's kind of like the pioneer of foundations and nonprofits trying to talk about repeated head impacts and CTE and stopping contact concussive sports. And she has a grandson from her son that committed suicide, and he's not playing football for obvious reasons. But she asked, she says, why do you think the professional football
say the letters say the letters
the NFL
here you want me to do it
won't work hard at getting kids out of tackle football? She says she knows that they do flag football, and you might be involved in the flag football, but she says, and just to keep kids involved, but why can't they just say kids shouldn't play tackle? What do you think?
It's about one simple phrase: money. I mean, you give me another reason why,
right?
And I don't think you can convince me, but it's about money. Anything that jeopardizes their game, and concussion certainly poses a big problem, potentially. As long as they keep it squashed, they're okay.
Well,
but I tend to differ on that. I think if they really went all out on, I don't know if you're going to solve the concussion riddle or problem, but you can do a lot more. And own up to it first and foremost. Concussions is a problem. I agree. If this is coming from the NFL, and we're all about trying to find a treatment or a solution that, say, for example, could be administered on the sidelines, that would stop the inflammation dead in its tracks. I think that only is a good thing for them, but they don't want to acknowledge it.
Well, who's that doctor that we just had?
Jim Kelly with Orogenics and the steroidal the nasal.
That's in testing right now in New Zealand and Australia.
Right. I've worked closely with Dr. Jim Kelly. I think the world of him, and I think he's he's way brighter than me. And I think that I really want to say close. I really believe they're close to a I'm not going to say a cure, but I think a solution with this nasal apparatus that can be administered right on the sideline, on the playground. It can be in hospitals, it can be in all the classrooms. And kid thinks that if you think a kid has a concussion, they give you this apparatus and you blow in it and it goes up in your nose. And as you said, it's presently, I think, in phase 2 clinical trial,
right?
Which is by far the furthest any drug or potential drug has gotten at this point in regards to concussions.
Well, and I gave him a little bit of a hard time because we were talking about helmets and guardian caps, and I said, I don't care. I had one of my doctors say, well, if you're going to ride your horse, will you wear a helmet? And I said, why? Why should I wear a helmet?
You make a good point.
And he's like, I said, it's going to protect my skull. That's it. It's not going to stop my brain from hitting my skull.
Correct.
And damage is there already. I'm already progressed. I'm further in the progression than Paul is. And I've been studied since 1999. But and he goes, well, we've done studies, Corey, and this ain't the time or place, but we can have that conversation on how a helmet does help. And I'm like, we can have that conversation anytime you want. If your head hits hard enough, your brain ain't stopping, period.
Correct.
Unless you got a big old foam cap on that, handles 48 G's a second to absorb. Like,
Do you remember, was it Kelso up in Buffalo?
Yeah. I think he wore the first one, right?
Yeah.
And I don't in regards to that stuff, I mean, a lot of times I think it's smoke and mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
They really tried to up the quality of the helmet, and I think that's good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think we're solving the main issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it has gotten better. I've looked at your Green Bay helmet and your New York Jets helmet
and you look at the helmets now on TV and
look at
totally
now. I mean, your New York Jets helmet is, oh my God, and this one's got more padding than anything.
Leather, right? Are you going to say it's leather? Yeah.
No, it ain't leather.
Paul carried his in his back pocket.
Yeah, folded it up.
Drew, post up that picture of tackling that Miami Dolphin.
Oh no, the Buffalo Bills. It was
Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I Brett, I was with you guys in '97. Reggie's back was bothering him, and you guys, Fritz Shermer, let me back up Reggie, and I played about 15 or 20 plays a game until my back went out, and then I came back in the playoffs. And Gabe Wilkins, remember he blew out his patella or something. So I played against Tampa the whole game, and then we went to San Francisco. And but anyway, so
now hold on. You could tell the story. I'm a 49er fan, but tell the story how you recovered a fumble and yada yada.
Well, first of all, Brett, thank you. I only got one ring, even though it was just a championship ring. I only got one ring in 11 years. And thank you, because obviously you had a little part to play in it. But
my pleasure.
The joke for me is, I only played 6 or 8 plays because Reggie had a miraculous healing in his back. But I only played like 6 plays. But the last play, about a minute and 49 seconds left, I slid out of bounds. Remember, it was a rainy day. I slid out of bounds, and with the football, I recovered a fumble. So they didn't get the ball back. I think you guys anyway. So
and then Brett Favre was able to go do what he does best: the 2 second drill, 2 minute drill, and just run it down the field to beat my Niners. Yeah.
Tell us about. Give us a rundown about what you're dealing with health wise at this point.
Yeah, so I told you earlier I was diagnosed with Parkinson's about 1.5 years ago. and I went in on the Monday morning. I had very minor symptoms, and I'll be honest with you, I thought for sure it was a waste of time to go see this doctor. I did an MRI on my brain, brought the CD in to the doctor. He said, I'll look at that later. He's kind of a no-nonsense guy. I really like him. But he said, turn around and walk down the hallway. And I turned around and walked down the hallway. And he said, all right, that's far enough. Turn around and come back. I turned around and came back. I got right in front of him. And he said, you got Parkinson's.
Oh.
And I'll be honest with you. This is exactly what I said. You have got to be shit. And he said, nope. See it all the time. He said, and I want to do a couple other things. He said, put your hands out like this. So I put my hands out like that. And he said, now tap as fast as you can one way, tap as fast as you can one way. And, I've never done that before. And when I tried to hit my right hand with my left on top of my left repeatedly fast, I looked like I was, I had no coordination whatsoever. And he said, so you have idiopathic Parkinson's. That's the most common. You are in the earliest of stages that I have ever seen. And he said, what I mean by that, you're not the earliest patient, age-wise. I've diagnosed people in their 20s. But you have got to be the earliest I have seen to come in and see me. He said, most people come see me regardless of age, maybe 10 years more in the disease than you are. They're pretty bad at that point. And he said, I can only attribute that to being an athlete and you being in tune with your body and something not being right. And what was not right for me prior to the diagnosis was I had two things, and Parkinson's is one-sided. So it was all on my right side. So again, very little shaking, if any, nothing ever that would raise a red flag. But I'd be walking around the house outside doing something, and my right arm was fixed at a 90-degree. I don't know if you can see this. It was fixed like this.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't stuck, because when I would notice it, I would be like, what the heck what's the deal? And I'd put my arm down, I'd walk, and a little while later, my arm was right back there. So I really just thought it was a quirky habit I picked up as I got old. The second symptom, which was right about the same time, I'm dominant right-handed. I do everything right-handed. I could not, I didn't realize that you roll the toothbrush in your hand. You do it like this. Well, I'm looking in the mirror one day, I'm brushing my teeth, and when I went to roll the toothbrush, I used my left hand, and I never noticed that. My dexterity in my right hand was not very good. And even now with the medicine, if you were to drop a dime, you and I were walking somewhere and you dropped a dime on the floor, and I reached down with my right hand to pick it up, you may think, has this guy been drinking? Because I'll fumble around trying to get that dime off the floor until I use my left hand. So that was the second thing. And that was really it. Putting my right arm in a long sleeve shirt or jacket, not a short sleeve, but I cannot guide it down that sleeve. I can feel my arm fine, but I could not guide it down. So those were really, for me, that was something's not right. And so here we are a year and a half later. As I said earlier, I've met with a lot of specialists. They've all said basically the same thing. What you're doing, keep doing. Staying as active as possible. They have found that the best treatment or solution for Parkinson's Now, keep in mind, the medicine that I take is probably what 99% of Parkinson's patients take. It's called carbidopa-levodopa. It is a synthetic dopamine replacement, which is what Parkinson's really is. A certain number of diminished dopamine cells will attribute that to Parkinson's. And so it's a short-term fix. The medicine I take every 4 hours, about 3.5 hours in, I'm usually, if I forgot that it's about due, my body tells me, the symptoms creep back in. When I first take the medicine, within 20 minutes, I feel about as close to normal as possible. But there is no cure. There's a lot of hope that there's something on the horizon within the next 5 years and I say this because where I am in the disease, or where anyone is in the disease, is very important. When a treatment comes out that either stops the progression or slows it, where you are in that disease is where you will be. You're not going to go back to day one. So Michael J. Fox, for example, has made Parkinson's famous and has done unbelievable work in awareness and research. But if something comes out fairly soon, he's still going to be fidgety and all over the place. That's not going to change. So there's hope, for in my case, that something will come out relatively soon. But I'm going to stay as active as I can, because every doctor said, don't get on the couch. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Get out, do as much as you can, as hard as you can. That's the best remedy for what you have.
Welcome to the HeadRush Podcast, brought to you by the Patrick Risha CTE Awareness Foundation. Karen Siegel, thank you so much. Paul?
So go to stopcte.org, learn about their foundation, and they are sponsoring us for the next year. We are thrilled to have them team up with them and bring awareness to this disease.
So please go to their Facebook page, go to their website, check them out. Karen is very, very, very willing to work with you. Contact her, and if you do know her, thank her for us, or just go on their Facebook page and say thank you for sponsoring the HeadRush Podcast.
We're getting close to the 2:00 hour, and what are you? I know you have been on a crusade for stopping tackle football in the youth leagues and so on and so forth. What are you doing? Some of that as well as, are you on the Michael J. Fox short call list for Parkinson's? Or what types of things are you
doing?
No,
I'm not, but I've spoken out. Some people say bravely. I don't look at it bravely. I look at it as it is what it is. I got Parkinson's. Where I got it at this point does not matter. You arguing over where I may have gotten it doesn't matter at all. Well, and that's the thing. My initial doctor, my local doctor, said, he goes, when I asked him, where do you think I got it? He said, really doesn't matter. You got it. It ain't going away, and you deal with it. And that's it in a nutshell. But I've spoken out about it. And continue to speak out about it. I'm on this show. I have no problems talking about it. It's life. It's real life. And I'll be honest with you, when I was diagnosed, it sucked. I thought the world was coming to an end. But it's not. I'm dealing with it. I have found, and one of the things that my doctor has said, he goes, everyone progresses different. And he said, I want you to think about the aging process. You see someone you haven't seen in 20 years, they look like they haven't aged a bit. You see someone you hadn't seen in 2 years, and they look, like they've aged 50 years. The progression is sort of the same thing. Everyone progresses differently. And he said, so what you can do to combat that, there's some things you can't control, but what you can control is being active and positive And that's what I'm trying to do. And so I try to relay that to as many people as possible. And I encounter, as you can imagine, so many Parkinson's patients, either through social media or in passing that come up to me and I can see them. It's funny because now that I have Parkinson's, I see people and I go, that person I think has Parkinson's. You just know, you learn about it. And, so, I'm concerned about myself first and my family. And that's my main concern. But I also, if I can lift other people's spirits or give them hope, that's a great thing too.
Well, and that's what this show's all about. And I'm 100% with you. And I think that was such an awesome statement because when I found out I got the TES, probable CTE, my world ended too. I mean, my wife watched Concussed, and we watched it in the living room, and she got tears and said, man, that's you. And then, but it didn't click in my brain. But once I got that diagnosis, it was like, well, I just signed my death certificate, and it was like, okay, so now what do I do? So now I'm involved. We were just talking about the central nerve system damage. I got
the autonomic system and all
the sympathetic and all of that is all damaged. Executive function and multitask. You might as well just. I'm there. No.
One thing that you have said over and over again is, CTE or probable CTE is not a death sentence.
No, it's not. It's not. No one has ever died of CTE. No one's ever died of it. So it's not a death sentence. There's modalities and therapies. I go to vestibular therapy. I go talk to a counselor. I see my doctors. I'm doing Botox injections for my migraines.
You do the EMDR.
I'm doing the EMDR, the CBT. I'm doing everything I can. But it's like you said, and this is where I kind of got on Paul a little bit, is that with the TES, if Ann McKee or Dr. Amalu or anyone comes up and says, I got this little pill for trial that may stop the progression, because I believe like you do, and Mark Gordon will argue with me and you'll argue with me, I don't think you can reverse what's been done to my brain. I think we can hopefully stop the progression or slow it down, but I don't think I'm going to get my brain
go back to day one.
Right.
No.
And
I agree.
But if someone has that pill, here's Paul, 11 years in the NFL, and I'm even going to say it. There's Brett Favre, 20 years in the NFL, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the world. But in the clinical trial, you need to have that TES endorsement to get that magical pill.
I'll just go buy it.
You can't.
No.
So I'm first on the list, and I believe that people need to go get themselves checked. If you think you are having issues, go get it checked. Don't try to man up. Don't try to. I did it all my life. Tried to man up. Tried to overdo it. Kind of like you with Parkinson's. Why were you able to be diagnosed so early? Because you pay attention to your body as a professional athlete that you were, the caliber you were. My arm, I don't do, this ain't me. Go get it checked. It's little things that you pay attention to. And if you think you have an issue, go get it checked. There are modalities and therapies.
We're out of time. And I got two 30-second stories. I got traded last day, the final cut, 1997. I knew who Brett Favre was, never played against him. And the legend of Brett Favre was slowly growing. But I win. My first game in Lambeau was Monday night, Chicago, season opener. And I saw Brett Favre on the 40-yard line run to his right, outside the numbers. Boom! The ball was on a freaking shoestring line, and it landed in Antonio Freeman's hands 6 inches over the goal line, right in the corner of the end zone. I'm like, oh, okay, that's Brett Favre.
Well, then, ain't it recorded your 60+ mile an hour ball?
I don't know if they recorded it back then, but I could heat it up. There's no question.
Yeah, a lot of receivers' hands were sore. Okay, last thing. When I was with you guys in '97, my son had a muscle disorder. He was 2 years old at the time. He was born in '95, and when the Packers ushered me out, before they ushered me out, I bought 5 Reggie White jerseys, and I bought 5 Brett Favre jerseys. And I walked up to you and I said, Brett, this is for my son's foundation. We're going to raise a bunch of money. And you without hesitation, you signed those 5 jerseys. And we probably made $30,000 off of those jerseys. And now we lost our son at 40 days shy of 16 years old in 2010. But there are 20 kids that have received in clinical trials a shot of gene transfer therapy, and they're alive. And some of them are walking, and most of them, every one of them is off the breathing apparatus. So anyway, the things that you did, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Paul. I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Well, we were blessed. We were absolutely blessed. And being able to help those 20 kids in clinical trials, and we're still fighting, and I think we're going to be able to help. Pharma has their hands on it, but we want to help them a little bit. So, really quick, end it with a word of hope to our listeners. We always end the show on a word of hope.
Well, and I'll relate it to me. We really, all of us. No one is immune to anything. I don't care what status you have in life. We're not immune to hardships and heartache, and it's there. But the hope is we can deal with it, and there's people that'll help us deal with it, whatever that may be. So never feel like you're alone. There's always hope, and you got to believe it. I really believe in the power of positive thinking. If you tell yourself that you're a nobody long enough, you'll start believing. And and the opposite is the same. So, reach out to people. Don't, and Corey, you said it earlier. You try to man up and do stuff. Sometimes that's not good enough. So the hope is people are there for you. Reach out to them, reach out to doctors, reach out to family members, or whoever. And sometimes it's you that's lifting other people up, but there's hope in this world.
Awesome.
And I thank you so much for that. And, I think Tyler Sash's mom said it best in Concuss the American Dream, that it's going to take someone like Brett Favre or who else?
I think she mentioned like a Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
To come out and bring awareness to this disease, because for all these years, it's never been an elite athlete, high caliber, come out and discuss it. And I just, the day Concussion, the American Dream came out, I watched it. I bought it and watched it the day it came out, because I'm all about learning and educating, and that Tyler Sash. And it was cool to have David Keno on at the same time here on our last episode, because you played with Tyler Sash's head coach.
Well, Tom Coughlin was his head coach. And actually, I had breakfast with Tom Coughlin probably about 2 months ago, and I was asking him about Tyler Sash. So, yeah, he had nothing but good things to say about him, his work ethic and so on and so forth.
So I really want to thank you for everything you've done. Yes, you're a terrific football player, but more than that, you're just a down-to-earth country boy, and I appreciate that more than you'll ever know.
Well, thank you.
And I just thank you for coming on the podcast. It means the
Thanks
world.
for having me. As I enjoyed being on.
Thanks, Brett.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right.
Okay,
Take care.
bye.
Bye.
All right.
Another great episode filled with unbelievable content. I know Brett just won another fan for life, because Karen Ziegel is going to be very proud of Brett for saying, the National Football League basically ignores telling children not to play tackle football because for money. So,
Well, and I think this is great to have someone like Brett Favre come on our podcast. Like I just spoke about with him, and thanked him so much, that it's going to take someone the caliber. You're a great athlete. You were one of the top in your time in the nation. And
nothing like some of those elite.
right. But I'm just saying that it
Just a
takes
little
someone that, you mentioned Brett Favre in China. They know who it is.
Oh, right.
And to be able to have a caliber of athlete come out and speak out about it is just, I think it's going to be a tremendous boost and help in getting more notice. And I just want to let people know it's not just football, it's rodeo, it's soccer, domestic abuse, there's everything.
One of the things I get frustrated with is we have a guest like Brett on and talking truth. We have Chris Nowinski on talking truth from CLF, Concussion and Legacy Foundation, about the brain and the myelin sheathing. It does not make sense to put on a helmet on a 7-year-old and send them out to possibly do some damage to his brain. And we had a couple comments from a couple weeks ago from a father says, you need to research this more, because there's no problems with kids playing football, and it's only the NFL players that come down with CTE. No, the youngest case of CTE, the kid died, committed suicide at 17 years old. 17 years old. And he might have played from 7 to 17, but he was a hockey player. He wasn't even, just to your point, it doesn't have to be football. Right. It's a concussive sport that will absolutely raise the probability of giving your child head trauma, brain damage, white matter damage in your frontal cortex. If you hit the back, you're going to get your occipital cortex, or whatever it's called. You're going to damage that. And I'm going to say it, right? The culpability, if a parent is knowledgeable to the fact that the child's brain is not developed, and to the fact that strapping a helmet on a 7-year-old and sending him out to hit his head over and over and over again, if it raises the probability, and it does raise the probability of damaging that brain, I think the parents are culpable for that child's mental health later on in life.
Well, let's just mention it. You mentioned Ray Lewis earlier.
Yeah.
Guessing who it might be.
Right.
Ray Lewis's son was diagnosed stage 2 CTE.
Stage 2 CTE.
At what, 28 years old?
28 years old. Yeah. And he didn't play in the NFL.
Right. Karen Ziegel's son, Patrick Risha.
Mm-hmm.
Did he play in the NFL?
No, not even close.
So it's proving right there that it's not the NFL. It's not just because they played in the NFL. It's years of repeated head impact.
To the coaches out there that coach Pee Wee football, if football's not going away, but to the coaches out there that coach football, please do not have the kids hit 5 days a week or 4 days a week. Have them hit 15 minutes for one day if you have to have them hit. but I would opt out for flag football. And then Brett says 17, CLF, Chris Nowinski says 14. Our sponsor, Karen Ziegel, says never. Brett actually made a comment that Omala said it's never safe to hit your head. The human head is just not made for that sport. But it's not going away.
You're not going to stop the gladiator.
It's not going away. You're not going to stop the gladiator. But I'm getting to the point where the gladiator can make a decision when they're 18 years or older, if they know all the facts about traumatic brain injury.
And putting a kid on a bucking horse at 6 is stupid. I said it to Brett. I say it now. It's stupid.
Right.
Let the kid develop until he's 15, 16 years old before you start putting him on something. Not only because of the brain, but also the neck muscles.
Right.
Everything, body development, and what it takes to ride a bull or a bucking horse. Let that body develop before you start banging the hell out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you. If a parent allows a kid to start riding early in age, knowing what we know now, if they're educated on it, their parents are responsible for their kid's mental health issue.
Right. Well, just help us get the word out. Share, subscribe, whatever you do with this social media stuff.
Go to our YouTube title, like Apple, Spotify. What all are we on, Andrew?
Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and then some of the smaller ones like Podbean and stuff like that, Podchaser. So all the audio platforms, and then YouTube, Facebook are the big video ones.
The bottom line is we want the information to get out. We want people to get educated. We don't make a dime doing this. We're doing this because we care for these kids, and we care for the mental health of our children and of our young men and women that have played concussive sports and that are suffering from the ramifications of it.
And I'm just a donator in rodeo. I never amounted to anything. I was never a top 15er. And so if you don't want to listen to me because I'm not one of the greats, and Paul played in the NFL for 11 years. He wasn't one of the greatest. He wasn't a Reggie White. He wasn't, one of the elite athletes. If you don't want to listen to that, listen to Brett Favre, who is by far one of the best quarterbacks ever to come out of the gate. He's telling you, it's not about a money grab. It's not about blaming. It's not about anything. It's all about hope and awareness, and just give you guys the knowledge, the education that maybe you see your son getting his head belt, his bell rung, that you don't tell him to rub dirt on it.
And put him back in the game.
And put him back in the game, or back on a horse, or anything. That you get it checked out. You allow that brain to heal.
Right.
And you do what you need to do. So please, folks, listen, we just had one of the best football players in the game on talking about this. Please pay attention. Thank you.
Stay alert. Stay alive.
This podcast is for general information only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard and delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.